Police revealed they are working with the two surviving roommates who were home during the attack but are not considered suspects. University officials say they've increased campus patrols and are excusing all absences.
If they want to leave and go home now, they absolutely can. We're going to support them in doing so.
Line is now emerging, with the two surviving housemates arriving home at 1 a.m. Mojen and Gonsalves at 1:45, the same time as victims Xana Kernodle and Ethan Chapin. Police say there were multiple calls made to the cell phone of the victim's ex-boyfriend, ending at 2:52 a.m., but they don't believe he's a suspect. Those calls put the murders after 3 a.m. The 911 call came nearly 9 hours later.
The identity of the 911 caller and the 911 call have not been released.
Based on those facts, based on those sequence of events, I have formed an opinion on who murdered the 4 college students in Idaho, Moscow. The victims were Ethan Chapman, Xana Kernodle, Madison Mogen, and Kaylee Concalves. I do find it suspect and unusual that law enforcement has refused to release the name of the 911 caller, as well as to release the 911 call. I also find it highly unusual and suspect that they are refusing to identify the 2 lone survivors. Thank you. First, I want to kill a theory about this lone killer, this stalker. I want to go ahead and annihilate that theory, because that theory requires me to believe that this lone killer just targeted this particular residence, hoping an unlocked door was there, and get in. It requires me to accept that this lone killer would go in there with a knife, not knowing if he would face 3 or 4, 5 people, 6, 7, 8, with pistols, not knowing if he would be confronted with 3 or 4 dogs. It requires me to believe that this lone killer would enter this residence not knowing if there was security cameras on the inside in places he couldn't see. It requires me to believe that this lone killer would be so comfortable to enter this residence without knowing the layout. It requires me to believe that this lone killer would enter a residence not knowing if they would trip an alarm. For those reasons, I must dismiss this lone killer theory that the law enforcement is trying to send the people down. When I look at the facts, the circumstances, the sequence of events of what happened to the 4 victims in Idaho, Moscow, I have come to the conclusion of who murdered them. Before I tell you that, I have to go back and address these 2 lone survivors. These 2 lone survivors in a room, let's say the room is locked. Let's say they was drunk. My question is, why is your room locked and you in the house with people you can trust that you're living with? Let me back up. Let's say that this lone purported killer entered a residence. Let's say he checked that door where the 2 survivors was at and it was locked. That creates another problem. But I'm not going to go there right now. Back to the two lone survivors. When they got up, according to them, they tried to arouse the four victims and they wouldn't wake up. So this requires me to believe that these two survivors didn't see the knife wounds and the blood, yet you can see blood oozing out the side of the house. All right. So these two lone survivors wake up, couldn't arouse the friends, called other friends to come over, and then called 911 3 hours later. That makes no sense. But it is very telling. So you mean to tell me two loving friends survived this massacre of four friends? Once they found out the four friends was dead, waited 3 hours to call 911. Well, let me tell you why I think they waited 3 hours to call 911 and call those friends over. I believe that those friends were still I believe some of the friends or all of them may have still been alive. And I believe these two lone survivors knew they was alive, but dying very quickly. But not fast enough, but very quickly. And I believe that these two lone survivors knew that these four victims lack mobility to really do anything. Now, it would be very helpful if we knew if the police revealed, well, I'm going to put it like this here. Since the police has not revealed where each victim phone was when they found them, is a problem for me. And I find that suspect because if these victims was attacked and some of them were still alive, where was their telephones? Where was those cell phones? Now, you have these two lone survivors that have four friends dead. No charges has been found for the delay because they could have very well still been alive. Now, my question is, why would two people that wake up and see four people stabbed and bleed take any other course of action other than calling 911 and not be a suspect? Well, that ends today. I am of the opinion, based on the facts, circumstances, the sequence of events surrounding the death of Ethan Chapman, Zana Canola, Madison Morgan, Kaylee Concalves, that it was not one killer. It was a combination of two or more killers that engaged in this horrific incident. And I am of the opinion, based on the evidence, facts, circumstances, and sequence of events, that the killers are, I say that the killers are, and the only possible suspects are the two surviving roommates. By no stretch of imagination can anyone, any legal analysis, any intelligent mind, any thinking mind, any analytical mind conclude otherwise. These two lone survivors may not have committed the murder themselves, but I can surely say, in my opinion, they know who did it, and they orchestrated, and they was in on it. But they may have well carried it out. But one thing I can say, these two survivors had help. They knew, and they set in motion this plan to murder these 4 people. That's what the evidence and circumstances lead me to believe, and that's my opinion. Now, when I look at this here, I understand now why the police is withholding the 911 caller identity as well as the call and refuse to identify the 2 lone survivors and those friends that was there when they got there. I believe that all these people have lawyered up, the friends that she called to see the bodies, the 2 lone survivors. This is why they haven't released that phone call and identity, because they have lawyered up. In my opinion, the police has these 2 survivors as well as the people that they called as suspects. I believe that they are telling the public this here, not to protect the integrity of an investigation. It is to cover up this conduct. That's just my opinion. Because, excuse me, if you don't believe that these 2 lone survivors' conduct in contacting 911 3 hours later is a suspect and they shouldn't be looked at as suspect, and that their conduct is problematic, you lack ordinary intelligence. Because no rational man, no rational woman, no current individual would do what these 2 lone survivors done. Why are you calling your friends over to see their bodies? That sound, you know what? Like I said, I am of the opinion that these 2 lone survivors took 3 hours to call 911 to be the cleanup woman. They had to clean up some things. You know what makes matters worse? When that University of Idaho told the students that they could finish the rest of the school year out at home online, they didn't have to come back, you effectively opened the floodgate for the killer to leave without suspicion. You effectively failed to contain suspects. So, of course, the police now want people to believe that this is a lone killer, a random thing, when in my opinion, it's these 2 lone survivors. I know. You said, speak Van Holen. You the only one has said this. My channel is real. I'm going to be real on subjects. Because if I don't feel it, I can't do it. See, a lot of people feeling this money they making on here. I ain't made a dime yet, really. But I will get there. But one thing I won't do, I will not serve my subscribers wine that's vinegar. I'm going to serve them real wine. Well, that's my take on it. Good morning to all my subscribers, and y'all have a nice day. I'm going to sign off.